Today I talked to Agnes Kazmierczak, who is a sound bath expert, and today we discuss the benefits of sound therapy and sound bath and how a sound bath could be beneficial for you in reducing stress, tension, and depression. Coming up. Hey, I'm here with Agnes Kazmierczak, who's a health and wellness practitioner and expert and also a sound healer. And I'm really excited to be with her because I attended a recent session where she was giving a sound bath to people, and I really got some things out of it, and I want to question and ask her some more details about it. But before we begin, Agnes, welcome to the Anti-Aging Hacks Show.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here and talking to you about the amazing benefits of sound bath.
Awesome. So Agnes, tell me about your background and how you got into sound healing and wellness.
Absolutely. So I was a ballroom dancer since I was a little girl. So I was always very much into music and how the music makes me feel as a dancer. And then over the years, I had some health problems. I lost somebody. There was like a lot of things going on in my life, and I start to feel, okay, I need to find ways how I can like feel better, and for my body, for my mind, for the soul. And I've been hearing and reading about meditation for many years, so I kind of like got into that. And then I was actually at the trip in Bali, right, highly spiritual place, and that's where I experienced my first sound bath. So basically, sound bath, the name can be a little bit confusing, but there's no water involved, right? Some people are scared of that. So it's basically immersing yourself in the frequencies of sound. And we all do that all the time. It's like, even driving here, I was listening to Michael Jackson on the way, right? And it just makes me feel so good. So music is so powerful. And with the sound bath, what happens, we use those instruments where they are tuned for a specific frequency, and that frequency is really there to align our body energetically and have a very powerful impact on how we feel. And there is a lot of studies, right, which starts to come up, like how beneficial it is. It goes back thousands of years, the use of sound for well-being. And like so many things in life, like I felt, the benefits of it, and I truly experienced how it helped me on so many levels. So I dived deep into it, and one thing led to another, and now I'm actually doing the sound baths for other people.
Awesome. Thank you for the background. How did sound therapy or sound baths help you in particular? So through I know you've had some challenges, you've lost somebody recently, somebody in your life. And so how did sound bath or sound therapies help you come out or feel better or feel different? And how did it affect you really?
There's so many ways. I mean, like relaxation is a big one, right? It's almost like we don't realize how stressed we are until we can experience the other side of it, right? When we can truly feel like, wow, I feel so relaxed. So that is like one of the biggest benefits. I feel like, people very often like fall asleep, right? Or they completely lose sense of time. So for me, I feel like my body can relax and I can let go. Big thing is mentally, right? It cuts through the chatter in your head. So sometimes you actually might spike a lot of thoughts, thinking of what I have to do next and worry about this and that. And slowly those thoughts are like disappearing, and you are able to become very present and very connected to yourself. And physically, it definitely, you just feel like energized. So I've experienced that too. After sound bath, I can feel very relaxed when I feel like, I'm gonna sleep so well. Or I feel like, wow, I have so much energy in my body.
That's great. And I did some research, as you said, on sound bath and sound therapies and just the use of sound in healing. And what I found is that the ancient Egyptians were using the sound of vowels because they thought vowels were somehow sacred. And of course, Tibetan folks have been using this in their gongs, and they say some of these gongs mimic the sound of the universe manifesting, which is, if you're spiritual, that would make a lot of sense to you. And then recently, shamans do this as well. They do healing or sounds in their healing practices. So sound has been around for thousands of years.
Yes.
Why is it getting more popular now? Why it suddenly?
I think like everything goes in cycles, right? And we are into these new things and we're trying things, and then the cycle goes around and we go back to the roots. And I think simplicity is also the key, because I think your sound is so simple, right? It's everywhere. So I think we're going back to the roots on finding ways how we can use those energies which are around us, and to really, they can benefit us in our lives. And more than ever, we experience stress and being so busy, right, in our lives in so many ways. So I think it's a way which helps us to just really let go of everything. And it's powerful because it's almost like it does it for you, right? Meditation, like more traditional meditation, can be more challenging for people, right? Just to sitting down and trying to do what? People get so like sometimes more stressed from the meditation, because it's like, am I doing it right? All those thoughts are coming into my head. Whereas sound, it's just like driving and listening to the radio. Sometimes you just drift off. So with the sound bath, the sound really takes you on a journey when you can just let go and be.
What types of instruments or bowls, if you will, do you use, and what kind of sounds do they generate?
So there are so many instruments. I love the gong, as you mentioned. So the gong is absolutely incredible. There are many types of gongs. Some are tuning to like the frequency of the planets. The one I like, it's called the Symphonic Gong, which is generally the frequency, the sound of the universe. And like you mentioned, NASA did study on that, right? So that's the actual sound of the universe. And that is very powerful. So I use that. I use also the crystal bowls, and those are tuned into specific chakra. So they have the 432 hertz frequency, which is very healing. But they're also tuning to the chakras. And so some of you who don't know the chakras, there are those energetic centers in our body which relates to different things in our life, like love or ability to express yourself or feeling safety. So those chakras are tuned into that. And as we're doing the sound bath and I'm playing the instruments, I'm moving between those chakras, so those energetic centers being triggered and aligned or activated, right? Because sometimes they are just like shut off. And then there are the Tibetan bowls. So those are similar to the crystal bowls, but they're made of combination of metals. So they kind of cut through the body a little stronger, so to speak. And there are many other instruments like chimes and so there's a lot, but I focus on the gong and the crystal and Tibetan bowls.
So if you're listening this on the podcast, just know that on the show notes page, I'm going to include a picture. And if you're on YouTube, then you'll get to see some of these instruments, which Agnes will show us after the actual interview is done. So Agnes, thank you for that. Just browsing through YouTube over time, and I may have clicked on one or two of these binaural beats or 432 hertz universe frequencies. And then other videos started popping up in my YouTube feed. And there's all of these different frequencies that supposedly have different benefits.
Yes.
Do you have any comments on the different types of frequencies and why you should be listening or tuning into those?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, tuning into different radio stations, right? Sometimes this specific radio station will be like crazy energetic music, which will like pump you up, and maybe that's what you need. Or sometimes you can tune into radio station, which is all about some soulful messages and very supporting and very nurturing. So that's also a frequency. So, depending, like if you want to like have a really good rest and fall asleep, right? The lower frequencies help you to get deeper into the meditation. So it's really depending what you need.
Gotcha. So let's touch on some of the scientific studies behind sound therapy, if you will. I took some notes, so I'll read on those. According to a study by the NIH, music effectively reduces anxiety for medical and surgical patients before they're going into surgery. And a 2010 study from Finland found that people that had strokes, so stroke patients, recovered faster when they were given access to music as a cognitive therapy, which is very interesting. And there's one study on cancer, and cancer in vitro, meaning out of the body.
Yes.
They put some frequencies of sound on it, and especially with voice, the cancer cells exploded outside the body. They continued the study with 2 women in particular, and that had cancer tumors.
Yes.
And they had them singing for, I believe, 2 or 3 hours every day.
Yeah.
The cancers basically went away, or shriveled up completely, that they were very hard to find in the body. So it's very interesting stuff coming out of these studies. And then there was one other study that I found that showed that singing bowl meditation, or the sound bath meditation, is effective at reducing feelings of tension, anxiety, depression, and spiritual well-being.
Absolutely, yes.
So I'll link to these studies in the show notes below. So there's a few studies, but the evidence seems to be going in the right direction.
Oh, absolutely. And I think over the years, I think we're going to see more of those studies, right? Because sound is so powerful. You see those musicians where they're actually playing the instruments, right? They're like in their flow, in their element. You can see the happiness, how they're immersed with it. The same singers, right? So there are so many different things we can utilize sound, and I think we have the proofs in our everyday life. We've all experienced how going into a concert and suddenly hear our favorite singer and hear the music and feel the energy takes us on a completely different planet, right? So I don't think there is a need to prove it anymore, because it's very true. It's helpful to have those scientific studies, like with cancer, or really measuring the level of depression and anxiety, because it makes us believe, okay, this is actually working, and it's so simple. It's way more simple than we think, and it's so accessible as well, right?
Yeah, I completely agree, Agnes. And music, personally, it evokes emotion in you, right? So you can hear a song that was your favorite song in high school, and you suddenly go back,
right,
decades, or 1 or 2 decades, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did I feel? And you're entranced in that time, and you get emotional, you feel happy, you feel sad. And I also use music for a couple of other reasons. One is there's 2 companies out there, one is Binaural Beats, which is basically what they do. For those of you that don't know, is there's a beat coming out of your device, and when you plug your earphones in, let's say that 200 hertz comes out of the left ear and 210 hertz comes out of the right ear. So what the brain does internally is it cancels out those 2 frequencies, and the difference is what you actually hear. So that leaves 10 hertz as the difference. And the 10 hertz puts you in the alpha brainwave, or the alpha brain state, which is kind of meditative, relaxed state. And so you could use these techniques to get into different types of brain states. So that's one technique called binaural beats. The other one that I use quite a bit is called Brain FM. And this is a company that's using some of these studies and studies on folks and with engineers to come up with different ways to produce 3D sounds directly in your ears instead of using the cancellation effect of binaural beats. They do it in your ears. And what that does, it puts you in enhanced states. So for example, when I'm trying to focus in the morning, I listen to Brain FM Focus. So, and I find that it kind of blocks out some of these thoughts that I have that are running around in my mind all the time, right? And then when I'm going to bed at around 10 or so, 10:30, I'll put in their unwind, de-stress thing. And it literally, my eyes started closing in 10 minutes. It's so crazy that it works for me. And of course, I imagine it works for other people too, but that's my personal experience. So to your point, I use sound therapy every day.
That's fantastic. And I love what you said about the emotions, because that's a big part of what we say. There is the healing in sound, because a lot of times, like, every emotion is like energy, right? Like everything. And we typically store a lot of emotions in our body, right? If we experience something really tragic, or we don't always allow ourselves to process and to feel the emotions, because sometimes it's difficult. And over the years, that creates disease, right? There's a lot of studies which show that everything comes from the energy and the emotions. So with the sound moves us, right? And sound helps us to release those emotions. So that's why sometimes we can hear a beautiful piece of music and suddenly we start crying, right? It's not only the sound, something gets triggered in us, that stored memory, which is ready to come out.
Yeah, very well put. Completely agree. And in this modern day where stress is everywhere, somebody cuts us off on the highway, we're stressed, we're flipping them off. A boss expects an email, or they send an email at 10 p.m. at night. Well, suddenly you can't sleep anymore because it wasn't worded the right way, right? So the stress is too much these days, and it's all around us. And to that point, stress has been shown to cause a lot of long-term disease.
Yes.
And the more we can get rid of stress in many ways, including sound and music, the better for us to utilize multiple modalities to kind of reduce the stress in our lives, because stress is everywhere. And if we can, that'll lead to a longer life full of wellness instead of ill health. Agnes, we talked about you, we talked about me, we talked about studies that show that sound therapy is beneficial. What about the people that come to visit you? The folks that are in your sessions, what do they experience after the session?
After the session, I feel like they're really, first, I have to say they're so surprised that like an hour went by. They thought it was like 5 minutes. So there's something about when we get immersed in that sound, the time disappears, right? We're just becoming so present. I always hear from some of the people that they just feel so relaxed. Sometimes it takes them like 20 minutes to even get up, right? Because they are just like, wow, it's just like my body is so limp and everything's slow motion. And that's pretty incredible. People fall asleep, right? And that's a good sign of they're just like really able to just let go of the things. I found a lot of people, they have those visions, right? So they see colors and they see maybe some memories from like childhood. They're coming because again, the energy is being moved and those things are coming to the surface. A lot of crying, right? It's something when they say like, I don't know, I just cried, the tears just starting to come down my face, and it's just the sound touches something in a very, very deep level where we feel safe to express the emotion and to feel it. So mental, a lot of experiences like, oh, I got this amazing idea, or I was like trying to figure it out, some things, and boom, it just popped in my head. So that happens, and that's usually very exciting, right? And physically, like sound moves the energy in a physical way as well, where people say, oh, like, I felt my whole body was tingling, right? Or I felt this pressure in my shoulder. So that's incredible because you physically feel it. And I think you had that experience, right?
Yeah.
When you came to the sound bath, your body got cold.
Did get, thank you. You remembered it got cold. So I'll tell you my experience. So when I was there, it was my first ever sound bath, sound therapy, if you will. And I showed up and there were, I don't know, 15, 20 people in there.
Yes.
And so I set up, I didn't know what to expect. And then you started. And it really was something I've never experienced before. It was a completely novel experience for me. And, there was a lot of sounds. You went back and forth. There was gongs, there was singing bowls. And I don't know what instrument you were using, but I felt like the sound, even though you were, I don't know, maybe 20 feet away from me, it felt like the sound was in my ear. I don't know how, I didn't think it was carrying through the ground or the air in the middle. It just felt like it was ringing directly in my ear, which was a very interesting phenomenon. I'm sure it has to do with how the sound is being carried to me. But so that was interesting, and I got cold, and of course I was relaxed after the session as well. So nobody wanted to stand up after.
Right.
They were all relaxed.
Yes.
And so you basically had to say, okay, people.
Okay, it's time to go.
It's time to go. It's 10 p.m. We got to go on a Friday night.
Yes.
But yeah, so it was a cool experience, and I definitely want to do it again.
Yes, and that's such a great point because every sound bath you will ever do, every experience is going to be different, right? So it's so necessary to just be open-minded and accept the experience, right? Rather than trying to control it. Because I think part of the healing of the frequency of the sound is knowing that there's that intelligence, right? That it's more than what we're trying to figure out in our head, and sometimes what we need is very different what we think we need. So every time when we come into a session, it's like being open-minded and just trusting that whatever needs to happen, it's gonna happen. And sometimes you might fall asleep right away and it's like, oh, okay. Sometimes you might be actually thinking a lot of thoughts. So yeah, open mind, because every session is going to be different.
I didn't even realize that could happen, but I assume
Yes.
it would. So let me ask you this question. How long do the effects, so let's say I go take a sound bath and I take it, it's a great experience for me, I feel good. How long do these positive effects or the afterglow last?
So I would definitely feel confident to say that you're going to feel the effects for at least like several days, right? And it's like everything. The more often you do it, the more significant the change is going to be. You might actually find yourself 2 weeks after the sound bath that you react differently to like a stress trigger, right? Or you're going to be able to handle certain things differently because there is like that inner sense of harmony, right, in your body. So you will feel the benefits, like strong benefits for sure. That evening, I always say, after you experience sound bath, just make sure that you take a good care of yourself and don't do anything crazy like going to a party, right? Just have a good night's sleep, and you will feel there's going to be a shift, and different people feel it differently.
So after a sound bath, light some candles, drink some wine. Well, maybe not drink wine, but
maybe not. Yeah.
maybe don't drink alcohol.
Yes,
but
yes, plenty of water, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great time for introspection. So like, if you like journal sometimes, I feel like you get a lot of, different thoughts and the need to get out things on paper. So it's kind of like a wellness time for you after sound bath. That's why it's so great to do it in the evening, right? When you have nothing else to do and you just go home, maybe take an actual bath, journal a little bit, and just go to sleep.
So you mean you're not walking around in the sound bath spraying water on people?
No, yes.
Okay.
So no worries, yes.
All right. The sound bath means there's, like you said, you're bathed in sound, not actual water.
Yes.
Okay, Agnes, so I assume this is considered still alternative therapy in the United States, like meditation, acupuncture, others. So you can't actually go bill your insurance to go take a sound bath class, correct?
That's correct, yes.
That's a bummer, because some of these techniques have shown improvements in people, and the insurance system won't cover it.
No, not yet.
Hopefully someday.
Hopefully.
When people come to your sound bath or your sessions, are they coming for specific ailments that they want to cure, or are they coming for a general sense of well-being and de-stressing?
I think both. Some people feel like they're just curious to experiencing sound bath, and I think now there's so much more information available, especially in LA, right? We can find a sound bath on every night of the week.
Is that right?
Yes, there's a lot sound baths, and the reason why, because it really works. It really changes people how they feel. So some people come in with like a specific expectation, right? Some people are just curious, and I feel like once you try it, you definitely gonna feel like, okay, whenever I feel like there's stress in my life, or I need something to shift the energy, I feel like I'm stuck, sound bath is a great practice.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me this, Agnes, are there any risks associated with too much sound bath? Could I puncture my eardrums?
No, I've never heard of any of those risks. It's definitely safe. I can't really think of anything which could prevent you from doing so.
Okay. How often should somebody do a sound bath if they're looking for de-stress or relaxation or some of those benefits?
I feel like it could be a weekly practice, right? But honestly, everybody's so different, and you kind of like I always say, you just have to feel when you need something. So it could be weekly, can be monthly. I had a period of time where myself, I was just playing every day, even for like 10 minutes, because I felt like it was such a great way to start the day. So you will know, it's kind of like going for a massage, right? It's like your body tells you, oh, it's time, right?
Okay. Gotcha. Yes, your body does tell you
Yes.
that it's not moving well, so you got to go get a massage.
Exactly.
So I understand the benefits of the sound bath and how often you should go do it. I understand that this might apply for most people
Yes.
that are stressed, that are busy, or even just for relaxation. This might be a good modality.
Mm-hmm.
Or is there anybody that should not do it, that is not well suited for?
You know what? I mean, sometimes it does happen. I had recently a friend who's very sensitive to sound, in a sense that it triggered something and she started to cough so much. And it was very interesting because as that happened, I was actually playing the throat chakra ball, and there was something so much in her that it really triggered, and she felt like it was too much for her. And she had to like leave the session, and she said, okay, I don't think I can handle it at this point. So, I mean, those things can happen. There is nothing which you have to worry in terms of like, risking your life-threatening, experiences. But you might feel like that the sound maybe at that point is too strong, because it is very strong, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's a strong sound.
It's very strong, yes.
And it's in your ear, like it's ringing inside your ear. And you can't,
Yes.
I couldn't imagine that it was coming from so far away. And so far meaning 20 feet, so it's not very far, but I still felt like you were playing it inside my ear.
Yeah.
Now, you said something, and I want to ask you, you said that you were targeting different chakras with different sounds.
Yes.
Are you able to do that? And what are the different things you're going through in your checklist as you're playing for an hour and a half?
That's a very interesting question. I have to say that it's a very intuitive process. Since the sound is a frequency, it's an energy. As a practitioner, what I do, I try not to think in my head about, okay, this is this chakra, I'm gonna play this ball for 2 minutes. It's almost like I really feel like I'm getting more in tune with the energy of the room and what the people actually need. And in a way, I'm in the flow. I'm in the flow where I feel what sound should happen and how they go. So it's a very intuitive process.
Sounds very intuitive and very spiritual.
Yes, it really is. That's the only way I can explain, which it was not easy for me at first, because with my background of a ballroom dancer, where it's very technical, there's certain things you have to do a certain way, and it's very analytical as well. You kind of like, okay, I want to know how I can do the best way I can play those instruments, but it's the other side of the spectrum. It's about really getting in tune with the sound and feeling the flow and the energy of the room. So it is very spiritual.
Yeah, that's quite the transition, I would say.
Yes.
Okay, Agnes, that sounds pretty good. How can people find you online and come to one of your sessions?
Absolutely. So I do the sound baths in Santa Monica. And you can find more about the location and times on my website, movementoflife.life. You're going to be able to find some information also about other types of meditations like breath work, and just read a little bit more about it. And then you can follow me on Instagram, which is Life with Agnes.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you coming and teaching us a little bit more about sound therapies.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to share, and I hope that some of you got a little more interested in trying the sound bath, and I promise nothing bad is gonna happen to you. So, I always say just try it once and see if you enjoy it, so you can find out for yourself.
Perfect. I'm going to include links to all the studies that we talked about or discussed down below in the show notes, so you should be able to check those out and look at the evidence yourself.
Bye.
Ciao.